of everything. The President of the United States is spreading deranged stories about his predecessor being a robot. I mentioned last week we finally got some good news out of the White House, and the good news out of the White House is that Elon Musk is out of the White House. Trump shares unfounded conspiracy theory claiming Biden was executed in 2020.
Elon Musk has left the White House. Trump claims Biden is a robot, and mice are now transgender? Nope. You're not dreaming. This is real news, and we're breaking it all down, black eye and all. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Elon Musk exiting the White House was one for the history books. Not because it was groundbreaking, but because it was, quite frankly, the weirdest political departure we've seen in a long time. If you thought the guy who renamed his kid XAE12 couldn't get stranger, think again. That farewell conference was less of a goodbye and more of a live-action parody skit. First, there were the mice. Yes, mice. Musk claimed during his speech, dead serious, mind you, that his administration had been working on creating transgender mice,
which are mice used for gene research and have nothing to do with sex changes. There is no such thing as transgender mice. That what Trump is referring to are transgenic mice, not transgender mice. There's not even a Chuck E. Cheese in West Hollywood. But
part of some bizarre project to revolutionize biology. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe it was a misunderstood metaphor about changing gears, or maybe he's auditioning for the next season of Rick and Morty. Either way, the speechwriters must have been on vacation. But the real kicker wasn't the mice, it was the missing money. At one point, Musk bragged about cutting $160 billion from the federal budget. Impressive, right? Well, it would have been, except that when asked about how he calculated those cuts, Musk admitted he had fired all the math experts. Yup.
From the budget, but that didn't happen because Elon fired everybody who knew how to do math. Cut $160 billion from the federal budget. Their initial promise was to cut $2 trillion.
No accountants, no economists, not even a dude with a calculator in the back room. Apparently, Musk calculated those savings using a binder he flashed to reporters, full of illegible charts and random numbers that look suspiciously like they were scratched down during a 3 a.m. caffeine binge.
I mentioned last week we finally got some good news out of the White House, and the good news out of the White House is that Elon Musk is out of the White House. A farewell press conference to send the skittish South African off on his way, and to catalog, he promised, and they've had enough of him, but it can't look like Trump made a mistake bringing him in, even though he obviously did. So they had a ceremony.
Even Trump, who introduced Musk at the press conference, didn't seem to know what to say, and that's saying something for a man who once referred to himself as a very stable genius. Instead, Trump just clapped, grinned, and called Musk the technological Mozart of our times. Clearly, standards have dropped. If the press conference wasn't surreal enough, the backlash to Musk's tenure as a government fixer was swift. The public, already skeptical about a billionaire with a Twitter addiction running anything important, didn't hold back. Pundits and critics labeled his projects vanity experiments designed more for PR than any practical purpose. Even politicians who once applauded Musk's ideas were now accusing him of being out of touch. And honestly, they had a point. Among Musk's grand promises when he first joined the administration was one particularly laughable goal: to redesign the entire healthcare system using an app that diagnoses you with AI. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. Turns out solving a decades-long healthcare crisis isn't as simple as coding your way out of a bad algorithm.
The most notable part of the press conference was the shiner on Elon Musk's eye. I don't know if you noticed about it. Reporters asked him, Elon was in the Oval Office with a black eye. He thought they said black guy, and it was quite a relief when what happened, he claimed he got punched by his 5-year-old son X and wound up with a black eye.
Then there was the black eye, the literal one. Musk strutted into that farewell conference sporting a bruise that nobody could ignore. Naturally, reporters wanted to know the story behind it, but Musk dodged every question with vague replies like, "I work hard and play even harder." Sure, Elon, but things got juicier when the New York Times published a bombshell story later that week, alleging Musk's behavior leading up to his departure had taken a turn turn for the chaotic. The report claimed late-night escapades, erratic decision-making, and, yep, drug use, according to unnamed sources, because, let's be honest, nobody wants Musk suing them firsthand. His inner circle had been imploding for weeks. Staff meetings reportedly devolved into incoherent rants about AI overlords and SpaceX colonizing the Mariana Trench. If that's not the mark of a man in over his head, I don't know what is. For a man known for his big ego, Elon Musk's departure wasn't exactly dripping with dignity. He tried to keep up the tough guy act, blaming everyone except himself for his failures. The media, totally unfair to him. Congress, too slow to embrace his revolutionary innovations. Even the janitors in his office building didn't escape unblamed. Apparently, they were accused of destroying morale because they unplugged one of his prototype monitors during vacuuming. He had explanations for everything, but the excuses sounded more like punchlines, and by the end, even Musk's most loyal supporters were rolling their eyes. And let's not forget Trump, standing next to Musk at that farewell, nodding along like they'd planned all of this. Trump, bless his unfiltered heart, gave Musk glowing praise, calling him one of the greatest men who ever lived. For a moment, it seemed like Musk might actually be believed, but the facade cracked when Musk tried to argue one of his most absurd claims, that cutting $160 billion was technically possible because the government wastes at least half of its resources expanding parking spaces. And just like that, the room erupted, laughter mixed with groans, though it was hard to tell who was mocking him and who was just too stunned to react. When it all fell apart, it wasn't because Musk came clean or admitted defeat. In the end, the mounting absurdities left him little choice but to step aside. His tech-backed bravado just couldn't hold up under the weight of public scrutiny, bad press, and, well, his own performance. He left the White House in the same way many people saw him entering it, a disruptor with potential, but ultimately more chaos than coherence. But while Musk's bizarre antics seemed tough to top, another political heavyweight was cooking up something even stranger. If you thought mice and mishandled math were wild, Trump's latest claim about Joe Biden will leave you questioning reality itself.
Of everything. The President of the United States is spreading deranged stories about his predecessor being a robot, a robotic clone. I mean, if your dad was saying stuff like this, you'd start looking for an assisted living facility.
Yes, the robot clone theory is on the table, and as ridiculous as it sounds, it's somehow managing to steal headlines. Let's break that down next. What's more ridiculous than Elon Musk claiming transgender mice could fix government? Donald Trump deciding Joe Biden isn't even Joe Biden. That's right. Trump has been running with a wild conspiracy theory that the current president is actually a robot clone. Yes, not just a robot and not just a clone, both.
Joe might not have the mental acuity to be president. Come get your guy, because he thinks Biden was executed. And by the way, whoever built that Joe Biden robot is very bad at building robots.
He shared this nonsense on social media recently, complete with unhinged claims about a secret Biden execution back in 2020. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, the same bizarre post also threw in the casually debunked accusation
that Trump reposted claimed today, since he's on a roll, that Michelle Obama is actually a transgendered man who played college football at Oregon State.
That Michelle Obama is a transgender man, because why focus on one baseless conspiracy when you can throw spaghetti at the wall and hope something sticks? Now, let's just take a second to think about this. A robot clone, not a regular clone, which in itself would sound like something out of a bad sci-fi movie, but one mixed with artificial intelligence and who knows what kind of futuristic nonsense. It doesn't even make sense. Robots and clones are completely different things. Wouldn't a clone be like fleshy and human-like?
Never mind unfounded. This is not even a theory. That headline should be convicted felon posts insane fairy tale about cancer patients. Trump shares unfounded conspiracy theory claiming Biden was executed in 2020.
And a robot, you know, isn't. Someone really needs to send Trump a Robots for Dummies book, or at least a quick explainer video from YouTube. Jimmy Kimmel even mocked the theory, calling it perhaps the most shocking political scandal in the history of this planet. And honestly, he's not wrong, except the scandal isn't Biden being a robot, it's Trump thinking anyone's buying this. The big question is why? Why would Joe Biden, who, love him or hate him, is just a guy in his 80s doing his best dad wave in aviators, need to be secretly replaced by some high-tech replica? What's the point? Would the robotic overlords be better at shaking hands with empty air or staring blankly at ice cream counters? It's bizarre to even try to piece together the logic here because there is none. And let's be real for a second. If this new version of Biden truly were a robot, shouldn't the programming be just a little sharper? Maybe throw in some quicker comebacks during debates instead of all those long pauses. Just saying. But like so many of Trump's out there claims, this isn't about logic or facts. It's about distraction. And boy, does this stink of one big smokescreen. While he's busy getting people to talk about robot Biden, Trump is also out here pushing plans to make almost $600 billion in Medicaid cuts. That's right. While tossing out wacky Clone Wars theories, he's actively trying to gut a program that millions of low-income families rely on, including cancer patients and the elderly. Funny how the robot discussion is what's stealing headlines instead of, the policies that could actually affect people's lives. This isn't a one-off strategy for him either. Trump has a whole history of throwing ridiculous conspiracies out into the world just when he doesn't want the news cycle focusing on things like healthcare, taxes, or his sketchy dinner meetings with dodgy characters. Whether it's birtherism, voter fraud claims, or let's not forget accusing the FBI of raiding his place looking for Hillary Clinton's emails, Trump's playbook hasn't exactly changed. This time though, it boggles the mind just how unhinged he's willing to go. But hey, it's working. People are talking about robotic clones instead of the Medicaid cuts, and the media is still falling for it. The idea of Trump pardoning Diddy is surprising for more than a few reasons. For starters, Diddy has been public about his criticism of Trump, most notably dragging him during the 2020 election for his divisive political rhetoric. It wasn't exactly a friendly celeb feud either. Diddy called Trump's policies dangerous, accused him of neglecting black communities, and urged his millions of followers to vote Trump out of office. Not exactly what you'd call warm relations. So the news that Trump might actually pardon him feels like we've entered some alternate universe where beefs turn into bonding moments. But of course, nothing about Trump is truly that straightforward. Trump himself all but admitted he doesn't make these decisions based on facts. When asked about Diddy, Trump shrugged and said, "I'd look at what's happening and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage." Translation, he hasn't really looked into it, but oh boy, if the buzz is big enough, he'll think about it. This sums up his whole approach to pardons. Who cares about justice when you've got trending topics to chase? Celebrity pardons, especially ones as random as this, play perfectly into Trump's obsession with being the center of pop culture chaos. Let's not forget though, while Trump awards dramatic forgiveness to controversial figures, the practice often leaves real issues on the back burner. His habit of using pardons for headline-grabbing figures instead of reforming questionable convictions speaks volumes about his priorities. It's all very on brand for someone who sees governance through the lens of cable news optics. And of course, 50 Cent's involvement only cranks up the ridiculous meter here. Let's unpack this for a moment. 50 Cent publicly stated he'd love to pick up the phone, chat with Trump, and remind him about how Diddy has badmouthed him in the past. Not only does this seem incredibly petty, but it also showcases the kind of celebrity-level drama that Trump thrives on. Even if 50's comment was meant as a joke, it highlights how much power big personalities think they have over Trump. And honestly, can you blame them? Trump lives for this stuff. He's like a drama-loving tabloid Hollywood exec in a politician's skin. These strange alliances, whether they're real or exaggerated, reflect the way Trump operates, by keeping his name entangled with famous people, for better or worse. What's even more bizarre is how much this situation says about where Trump's focus lies. While Americans are grappling with rising grocery bills, housing costs, and stagnant wages, Trump wants the world to know he's weighing a celebrity pardon for the headlines. Sure, it's entertaining, but it's also telling. If there's one constant to Trump's chaotic political brand, it's this: attention always comes first. Whether he actually pardons Diddy is entirely beside the point. The debate alone gets him airtime, keeps his face on the news, and fuels conversations about who's in with Trump and who's out. One thing is certain, Diddy is unlikely to directly lobby Trump, and 50 Cent's self-invitation into the discussion might amount to nothing more than Twitter drama. But don't underestimate just how much Trump enjoys watching this all play out. This is a man who hosted WWE events and starred in his own reality show. He's built for this kind of ridiculousness. Whether it's reality TV stars, robot clones, or now rap legends, Trump keeps setting the bar lower for for what we can expect from American politics. And as if this circus wasn't loud enough, let's shift gears to something hitting a little closer to home for most folks. Trump's week of crazy headlines might be fun to mock, but the economic chaos creeping into everyday life, that's no joke. Let's talk about where Americans are really feeling the pain. It's at the grocery store. This week's headlines weren't just bizarre. They were a neon sign pointing to a bigger problem. Leaders prioritizing theatrics over actually fixing anything, while Musk obsesses over transgender mice, and Trump spreads robot clone theories. Everyday Americans are left wondering why their grocery bills look like rent payments. Eggs alone are still 78% pricier than last year. But hey, let's focus on Diddy's pardon, right? The message is clear. Politics has turned into a circus, and we're left juggling the consequences. Stay informed, question everything, and maybe laugh through the madness. Who knows? Next week might bring Musk-powered Biden bots.